Hello and good morning, everybody. I am so glad it's now, where are we at, Coby? We're at Wednesday. It has felt like a string of Mondays, but it is a beautiful sunny day here in Calgary. Welcome to all of you that have been joining in our conversations. My name is Lisa Garrow, and I'm the founder of Canadian Consulting. And I have absolutely loved this conversation around how are we truly engaging our online guests. And for many of us out there, we have been planning and promoting events for years and years and years. And I tell you, the digital age is here to stay. I'll just say that right off the bat, because I think the new normal is normal now. And we've got to get very real about showing up and being engaged ourselves and learning more and putting ourselves in a great zone where we are ready to go for the people that we are inviting to events. It's more than a good show. This is really about how are we staying engaged ourselves? How are we learning? How are we bringing partners to the table? And Coby, thank you so much for joining me today. What a gift to have you in our Candy Circle. And we'll talk a little bit about how we've partnered in the past. But I'm going to pass it to you just to give a bit of introduction, who you are, what are you working on, and I think the conversation that we want to have this morning is really about what you do and how you've been able to translate that to an online audience. But I've already experienced myself how you put everything you've got into the shows that you do online, and it's not just a show, you're giving it everything you've got from the inside. So welcome, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm based here in Toronto, and I get to do over 500 magic and mind reading shows a year. That's my pre-COVID scenario. About half of those shows are in schools throughout the Greater Toronto area, where it's a kind of a Vegas-style magic show for grades 1 to 8, with an anti-bully message embedded within the show.
Amazing.
So, we do 2 to 4 of those a day, and then in the evening I wear the corporate hat, and then I do the corporate events throughout Canada and the US. That's a little bit about my schedules. My office 9 to 5 is usually a gym with 600-700 screaming kids. That's
which obviously has changed completely now as well, right? Like the idea of this exchange of energy that happens when you've got especially kids in a gym. That it's not just about I guess bringing the magic and bringing your skills and your talent to the table, but it's also managing all of that energy in the room and funneling it to a great experience. Can you tell us kind of what kind of work is it that you do? So I have posted, you're a mentalist, you are a magician, but what does that look like? Because there are a lot of magicians out there. The audiences that you've had, a lot of celebrities that you have been performing for. And I think that how you show up as a magician and a mentalist, what does that look like for you? Like, what can you kind of run through either an in the gym kind of show, or what does that look like with a corporate event? Fill the people in that haven't seen your show. So what are you, when you come, what can they expect?
So there's a whole range of scenes and emotions that we create to really connect with people in the live show. And so we do visual magic, traditional, magic, and mind reading as well. So we use verbal communication, non-verbal communication, psychology, a little bit of luck, a little bit of street smarts, a little bit of everything.
Stir it all together.
They're all together, and we do things. It's very interactive, very much a lot of audience participation. We bring them up on stage, tell them their first kiss, their first pet, mess around with them. We do interactive stuff with everybody else. So I mean, it's very upbeat. It's very interactive. The show itself. So that's a little bit about the show itself. The same idea with the bully awareness show that we do. So it's a professional magic and mind reading show for schools, for kids, with an anti-bully message embedded within the show. So there's that educational component in there. And then in the evening when we do the corporate events, it's all the same idea, just magic, mind reading, messing with their heads, having a lot of fun with that.
A lot of fun for, and I have to say, being on the other side of it, a lot of fun for the people on the other side as well that are watching or participating. So beautiful. I think in so many ways, we talk a lot about surprising our guests, and I don't mean in a sense of throwing them off to a point where now it's uncomfortable, or especially when you're talking anti-bullying. Any of us, either in leadership, or if we've got some kind of a talent that we can share, or we're leading the show, there is that responsibility with your maybe responsibility is the wrong word, but there's this interaction that happens that you want, that cadence, I guess, that happens with your guests or the people that you're performing for. And if you don't have that back and forth, what is that like for you if you don't really have that engagement from the crowd, or you're feeling like maybe you just don't have that flow that you would typically have? So when we talk engagement, and let's talk face to face, because that's what we certainly love, but then how do we translate that? Yeah, but if you could tell us a little bit about what is that feeling for you when it's working and maybe when it's not.
So, I mean, it doesn't always work. It's not always a perfect formula. I'm a very good listener, I think, and I like to listen to the audience. And the benefit of doing 500 live performances for real people every year is where I get to, either send surveys after or get feedback and see what they want to see, what they don't like. Sometimes it's a piece I'm working on for months and months and months, and I'm stubborn. I love it. I want to keep it in the show, but they don't respond or react the way I want. We'll have to take it out. So, we really want to work with the audience and work with them and see what the audience likes as well. So if they're not reacting, we'll kind of play back the videos, or see where we went wrong, or see why didn't it work, what they didn't like. Maybe, it was a culture thing, it was a language issue, whatever it is. So we try to really tweak things every single show and learn from our mistakes. I have actually a two-way mic that when I speak quietly, my assistants can hear me.
Okay.
And when I press a button, the assistant can hear me, but the audience can't. Little secret of the trade. And when I release the button, everyone can hear me normally. So if there's a note that I want to make, you know what I mean, like I don't know, this needs a little paint job on this illusion, or the music was off here, or this should be centered off stage a little bit, whatever it is. So I'll just make notes to myself. Nobody will realize this, but everything's recorded, everything's transcribed, so we get it right the next time. So
amazing. Well, and what a gift. I think even in the for a lot of us that are event organizers, and we I do some of that when I'm called on with a client, where I can be at an event and I record and I listen in, on what's the conversation in the hallways, and that all of that matters, and recording that matters. And if you're familiar with, I'm sure you are, with Simon Sinek, and also, oh goodness, now his name has slipped my mind. There was a great conversation on a Simon Sinek conversation, and Seth Godin, that was the conversation. But this idea of shipping what you have, and with 500 shows a year, I'm sure that some of them, you've got new material, you've got a new audience, there's something different about it, and sometimes we've just got to, when he says ship, it means you're putting it out to the crowd, you're putting it out to your audience, you're testing something, and it isn't just throwing it out there and hoping it'll land. That's part of it, maybe taking the risk, but taking a calculated risk and then making notes as you go and refining, so you can engage better. That's amazing. Can you maybe give us an example of something that maybe it didn't go completely off the rails, but maybe you made a note of it where it's like that would be, something that you want to shift and change for all of your future shows?
Off the top of my head, I mean, there's so much that goes on in every single show, and some stuff that can go wrong, and all the time things go wrong. But the benefit is the secret is to make the audience not know, or not into, maybe that was off a beat. And sometimes the mistake or the backup plan, the plan B, always have a plan B.
Okay.
Sometimes the backup plan, when we had to use it in the actual show, the response was amazing, and that became the plan A.
Amazing.
Just
Totally. Well, I think sometimes when you think it's a plan B, or if it's like maybe there is some kind of a response to something that as you're making a note of it, that you can take back to your team and refine, and how could we adapt that into something that looks different now. When you are looking at now shifting, and you have already shifted a lot of what you do online, how much of that still applies to an online audience? Like are you getting as much feedback? I guess that would be an interesting for me to hear, like, or are you feeling like there's some dead space, like, and not so much that the audience isn't engaged necessarily, but it's harder to see when you've got a bunch of little squares to see if what you're putting out there is landing in the same way.
Well, it's definitely different. It's a different medium altogether, and it's definitely a new genre of magic in performing, and for my art. And I'm still figuring it out. I was never a big believer in virtual in the beginning. I never thought it would take off. I never, thought
like at all.
No, I never thought. I thought it was. I stayed away from that. I never thought it would compete with one-on-one live interaction. I mean, look how powerful that is. We need to interact, as a people. So
yes,
I was never a big believer in it, and then I sat on the back burner. I saw what my fellow performers were doing and figuring it out, and then I had a client that literally begged me to do a virtual show for them. I had no clue what I was doing. This was back in April.
Okay.
COVID lockdown, April, Toronto, still cold. And they asked me to do it, and I finally acquiesced, and I did a show for them. And it was like 50 employees with their kids at home and all cuddled up, and I threw my webcam, my Mac, and just did my shtick for the camera. It was pretty crappy. It was pretty terrible, actually. But they really loved it. They genuinely loved it. I'm like, you love that? And I realized very quickly it was the engagement factor. It was the interactiveness. It wasn't two-dimensional.
Yeah.
And that's what people are looking for, the interactiveness and the engagement. And we've actually taken a step further. And I mean, there's two ways we can go about this. We could say, we're all in this together. We can't do live events, 1,000 people in a room, chummy with each other. So this is the second best thing. Okay, let's make the best of it. But there's another approach. Let's take this screen, or all these screens, and embrace it. And make the magic even more powerful. Make the experience even more powerful. And to use that distance to make the magic more memorable and more interesting and creative. So, for example, I would ask you to think of a playing card, okay?
Okay.
So here, just think of a playing. Now we've never set this up. Just everyone, we've tried you before. Told you what this. Think of any card. Think of a number card or picture card. What's it going to be? Numbers or pictures?
Tell you?
Yeah.
5 of diamonds.
Okay, 5 of diamonds. Cool. And there's no way I could have known that. Impossible. There's one card in this deck that's upside down. It's the only card.
Okay.
Okay. And what card did you choose? The 5 of
diamonds.
And would it be crazy if the only card here smack in the center that's reversed right there? What are the odds of that being the 5 of diamonds?
Well, probably even 0, because we didn't even do any prep before we went live today. So
I just want to show you this one card here. It's the only card upside down, and it's the 5 of diamonds. But that's what we've been doing.
That's crazy, right?
What if I could ask you to think of a card, and then I tell you, go to your old kitchen drawer where you had that old deck of cards in your home.
Okay.
And there's one card in there that's upside down. That's reversed, and that's the only card in the deck. That's pretty cool stuff. I mean,
that's incredibly, because you came with one of our partners, you came on and you did a show, and I literally was blown away. And I was watching, because it's what I do as an organizer too, right? Like I plan these events, but I want to make sure that everyone's really into it. And the faces of each of those little squares when you were exactly pulling something like that out, and the idea that your brain actually can't wrap its head around. And I'm sure this happens when you're live as well. But you're surprising an audience in a way where they are now so busy thinking about how did that happen, and who is this Coby guy, and where do we hire him for the next event. But I think sometimes when we lose ourselves in those moments, that's when engagement happens, right? And we see that in great relationships too, where you're so in a moment where you're having a great laugh. You're so in a moment where you've been surprised by something, or what you just did, where it's like, I don't know how that happened. I'm not thinking about my laundry, that's sitting in, I'm at my home office, but sitting down there. I'm not thinking about my next task. I'm so engaged with what's going on, in this case on the screen, that it allows me a little bit of that escape. And when we talk about our event guests, and I've been saying all this last 2 weeks in these conversations leading up to tomorrow's webinar that I'm doing, but it's just like, it's not enough anymore to say that you can just show up and you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to commute. You don't have to put on pants. You don't have to even get ready or do your hair, because you can be, you can turn off your video. All of that, I feel like, is an old conversation that needs to be parked kind of as a 2019, 2020. And now like you said, we've got to step up. But I love what you're saying about engagement happens in a case like that, where you can just show up and do the work that you do, and use that talent to allow people to zone out a little bit and so enjoy the moment.
That's the name of the game. Hopefully, if they enjoy
Are
it.
you seeing, like, what are you seeing, or what are you expecting now for 2021? What is that looking like for you? You said kind of take it to the next level. So are you already kind of crafting what that might look like?
So I'm focusing 100% on virtual shows right now, and I mean stuff that's happening remotely that you can experience in your hands. Exciting stuff. That's stuff that hasn't been done before, and to me, that's worth doing. That's worth spending the 1,000 hours or whatever it is to perfect it and get it. Because I think we're going to be in the virtual space for long, and when it does, because we will get out of this. We will. And when it does pass, I think it's going to be a hybrid in my art anyways. I think it's going to be always there. And I think it's good to have that option to give to hybrids. It could be also even a hybrid within a hybrid. So you'll have it at-person events where you have the virtual guests that couldn't attend coming to that event as well. So there's so much, as you know, so much going on right now with the virtual space. But I think it's a great medium right now. People are loving it. The chats are great. And we can record the shows and learn from them and tweak them and improve them, just like we do in the live shows. A lot of similarities. It is a lot of getting used to seeing, hundreds of Brady Bunch squares and getting
That's right.
But it's definitely a new genre, and I think it's here to stay.
I agree with you. I think it's here to stay, and I would, for anyone out there that you are looking for something new, we have literally just scratched the surface with a couple of our friends where we've got, we talked about the cheftorial, where you've got chefs that cook your meal. You go buy your food, and then they're helping you cook your meal. For galas, we talked with Trish, who has an online photo booth where you can actually win prizes by scratching on your phone. And then now talking to you, Coby, I just love this conversation around, I think the biggest takeaway in this conversation with you and I today is that you don't have to be perfect when you start. The idea of starting and refining and figuring it out and maybe partnering with others, that's where some of us that are in the events industry, we have a bit of a tough time with that, because we want things to be perfect, and we want there to be obviously great engagement, but sometimes we have a hard time just putting it out there and allowing ourselves that growing period to see what else is possible. Maybe you do that refinement and include others in this journey, because when you and I met, I didn't actually know that this was possible to the extent that you were able to perform for us and our partner group. that would have been, I guess, in May. So I so appreciate just your time this morning. I know you've got to run. You've got probably another 5 shows today. But how can people find you? Like, where can they connect with you and book a show or have a conversation about what engagement means?
Of course. So just to add to what you just said, which is amazing, a wise man,
Okay.
a wise man, let's call it that. Let's leave it at that. Told me that, as the saying goes, you're only as good as you dare to be bad.
Mm.
So when you put yourself out there, you learn from your mistakes. So you dare to be bad.
Love it.
Themagicofcoby.com is the website. You can see trailer, video clips. I'm actively now working with LinkedIn now, so we're going to be posting a lot of the video clips and as we move along with different teaser clips. So email is info@themagicofcoby.com and LinkedIn as well. And it's been a pleasure. And I think 2020 is not over yet, but I think 2021 is going to be pretty good, actually.
I think so too. I think we're going to emerge from this, and I feel a little bit like the Thriller, for those of you that grew up in the 80s, and we just made it through Halloween. But this idea of coming out, like it felt like events were dead, or we hit this wall, this hard wall, in like March, April, May. Everything was really coming to a stop. But I think with everything, there is a growth period. There's always this growing and maybe a bit of a downtime, and I believe, like you say, 2021 could be beautiful. I think it means us stepping up and showing up for it and being open to what the opportunities are. So thank you so much for being here. For all of you that are looking for a little bit more, this whole series, these conversations I've been having over the last week and a half are all leading up to tomorrow. I've got Candy's short guide to engaging online guests, and that is a full hour webinar and a downloadable booklet. It's a part of a whole new series that I've just put together. It's called Candy's Short Guides to Learning. So you can find the registration for that. It is free at candyconsulting.ca/guides. And again, Coby, where can they get a hold of you? Your website one more time?
Themagicofcoby.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me. And to all of you, hopefully we will see you tomorrow at the webinar. We'll see you there.